Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is S.Milton, judge of Los Angeles Superior Court, retires. I heard as I listened to the speeches, there's a lot of talent here, there's no doubt about that. And I listened to Mr. Hockman. He says he wants to be the next district attorney in November 2024. Well, I want to be the next district attorney in March of 2024. I want to get 50% of that vote right then and replace Mr. Gasco because of the urgency that I can see here. Now, the other candidates, you're very talented, and I'm going to ask each and every one of you to come and interview this chief deputy. Seriously, folks, let me tell you a little bit about myself. You know, initially I was told that I had 15 minutes to address you. 45 years as a judge and lawyer, I've got to cram it all, summarize it all in 15 minutes. I said, well, I'm going to see if I can manage that. Well, after that, I got a call from Joe, or an email from Joe saying, well, now you got to do it in 10 minutes. Well, here, let me try to do that. Well, let me tell you a little bit about myself.
And it was me.
It was you, Joe. Yeah, he told me to cram it all in 10 minutes now, 45 years as a lawyer and a judge. Well, I began the district attorney's office a long time ago. And the entry-level work I did, after a couple of years, I matriculated fairly quickly up through the ranks of the DA's office. I was assigned to the Crimes Against Persons section, the Career Criminal, Habitual Criminal section, the Hardcore Gang Division, and then finally as deputy in charge of the Downey office of the district attorney. Well, that was my first management, professional management position in the DA's office. It was a small group of lawyers I managed and administrative staff. But you know, the position that I was most proud of was when I was in the Hardcore Gang Division. Let me explain that. The Hardcore Gang Division, I handled some of the most difficult cases that are handled in any jurisdiction in the entire United States. Those cases often involve multiple defendants who committed multiple murders, complex conspiratorial theories and evidentiary problems, witness intimidation, witness killings, witness relocations. You didn't know if you had a case sometime until you put that witness on the stand. Well, I was able to get the death penalty as a deputy when I was in Hardcore, and I don't mean that in a celebratory sense. This is serious, but I need to explain the breadth and depth of my experience. So that was my first death verdict as a deputy DA in Allen County DA's office. I then was appointed judge of I spent 9 years in that office. I was appointed judge of Los Angeles Municipal Court at that time. I spent 5 years as a judge of Los Angeles Municipal Court. I left that position after 5 years, and you said, well, why? Well, I was asked to become chief assistant prosecutor in Indianapolis. You say, why? Why would you want to do that? Well, I was asked to come back and handle the prosecution against Mike Tyson, set up a gang prosecution team in Indianapolis, and the thought was that H.W. Bush, former President H.W. Bush, were appointed to the United States District Court in Indianapolis, a lifetime appointment. Well, I said, well, it sounds like that's a deal where, take the risk. So I did it. Well, as it turns out, by the time I arrived in Indianapolis, Mr. Tyson stood on his speedy trial rights, and so I didn't get to prosecute. He was successfully prosecuted 2 weeks before I arrived. I did set up the gang prosecution team in Indianapolis, and with the district court appointment, as you know, former President H.W. Bush lost the election. He was unsuccessful in his re-election bid, and so I did not get the district court appointment either. So while I was there, however, I got my second death verdict as a prosecutor. These are serious matters, and I'm going to spend some time on that in a little bit. So I returned to California as Assistant Chief Trial Counsel of the State Bar of California. This was my second executive management position. I supervised lawyers, deputies, and the State Bar prosecutors, or State Bar investigators. I supervised them, and we were tasked with prosecuting errant lawyers. That's just another layer of public protection. After that, I was appointed judge of the Los Angeles Superior Court. I served that court for 19 years, so total time on the bench 24 years. In that position as a judge, it made sense that I would handle gang murder cases again, and that's what it was, almost back-to-back gang murder cases, sometimes involving two juries when I was in the DA's office and two juries as a judge. I sentenced a man to death. These are serious matters. We don't take them lightly. And I want to take a moment just to talk about the death penalty. The voters of California have voted twice that the death penalty ought to be a possible penalty in California. And it's the district attorney's job to acknowledge and recognize that. You'll never get that out of Gascon. I'm not going to say much about Gascon because I don't think he will survive the primary. I think Gascon is gone. I think the citizens of one of us, including the absent candidate, will be your next district attorney. And I'm your best. There's some talented folks here, but I'm the best. I am the most experienced. There's no question about that. The death penalty is something, I mean, most deputies in these offices think, oh, well, okay, we might go for the death penalty. You weigh the aggravating factors against the mitigating factors, and there, it's not that simple. Let me tell you something here. Remember the death penalty verdict I got in 1986 when I was a deputy DA? He's still there. The death verdict that I got when I was the chief assistant prosecutor in Indianapolis, he's still there. The man I sentenced to death in 1996, he's still there. Do you remember the toolbox killers? Whitaker, Norris, you remember them? Horrific killings, horrific. Tape recording, the torture, murder, sodomy, and rape of all those young girls. It was brutal. It's on tape. The jurors could not bear to hear it. They start. Cooley, Mr. Cooley's, Steve Cooley remembers that case. One of the most horrific cases handled, I think it was Steve Kay who handled that matter, that's ever happened. That verdict was richly deserved in that case, what he did to those little girls. They were tape recording, twisting off, using pliers and vice grips to the most sensitive tissue on a female human's body. That's what they did for a period of time. 4 or 5 victims, and one on the tape recording. Scream louder, bitch! Scream louder! I have to share that with you. This is how serious that was. The tortures went on for weeks before they were apprehended. Scream louder, taking a box cutter and cutting into their abdomen. I am a whore. Well, Whitaker got what he deserved. He was sentenced to death. Well, what happened to him? He died of natural causes about 2 years ago, I believe. What about Rodney Alcala? He kidnapped the boys at a hamburger stand, took them out to a remote, and he executed them with a shotgun blast to their head. Alcala sitting there, eating the boy's hamburger, and he sees a piece of skull and flesh on his jeans. He flicks it off and says, I sure blew the little bastard's head off, didn't I? That's a penalty that must be taken seriously. Well, what happened to Alcala? He died of natural causes about a year ago. What does that mean? The district attorney has to marshal the resources that he has when making that determination. When I become district attorney, any case like Deputy Klinkenbrummer, I want that to hit my desk immediately, first, for further assignment and discussion. Any case where there's the execution of a police officer, that hits my desk first. Any officer involved shooting that results in death should hit my desk first. The public ought to know that we're balanced and we will do the appropriate thing under all circumstances. Gascon must go, there's no question about it. I'm asking you, I cannot possibly I cannot possibly, in the 10 minutes that's been allotted here, go into more detail than I've gone into. I'm asking you to look at my website. I've set forth a sampling of cases that I handle as a deputy district attorney and as a judge. Look at those cases. And you know, I feel terrible that I forgot to introduce my lovely wife and my lovely daughter, Miss Nancy and Julie. Well, she is my little girl. She'll always be my little girl. So, with that said, please, I'm hoping that you will, the public, will get behind me for March and give me 50+% of that vote. That's what I'm looking for. Thank you.